KVLA Talk 1580. Good morning. God bless. Call me. Let's talk about it. 800-920-1580. That's the number. Rest in peace, Pop. Man, I feel that being from the Bay like I am, and just loving LA. Just loving it. Thriving here in this space. And it is a nexus many times for what's going on nationally and internationally, even as we have this conversation about this abolitionist pod and reimagining the way that we care and heal for people and for ourselves. Hopefully, my hope in my prayer is that we can lead, and I know it's happening in other places as well, but we can lead as we move on this journey towards new models for how we deal with trauma, how we deal with all of the healing that needs to take place. People are, this conversation about Will Smith and the what they call now the slap that was heard around the world. Everybody, now the trendy thing is say, I'm tired of talking about it. Da, da, da. Okay, I get that. Tavis said it Monday. But then they keep talking about it. It's like the people that say, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Then they go on a rant about it. But speaking of to live and die in L.A., it's interesting that Will Packer, the producer of the show, told Good Morning America that the LAPD was more or less begging him to let them arrest Will Smith. Like, what they're saying is that, because attorney Ariva Martin, and thank you, Ariva, for filling in for me yesterday, she was pointing out that he could still be charged. Will Smith could still be charged. They wouldn't even need Chris Rock to cooperate because it is a misdemeanor, I guess, maybe a felony, depending on how they charged it. But what the LAPD said is that with misdemeanor crimes, the victim cooperation is important for a successful prosecution. That's what a spokesperson for the LAPD told the LA Times. So that's why they felt like they needed Chris Rock in order to arrest Will Smith. But man, I mean, you think about that. What happens to you in that scenario if you're not a millionaire celebrity, a multimillionaire celebrity? So, and by the way, they pointed out also that they could arrest him at any time. Like, this is, there's probably a long statute of limitations on that. Of course, we're talking about what happened. I'm doing shorthand here because pretty much everybody knows what happened at the Academy Awards, where everybody knows, but then nobody knows. And I think one of the reasons why people are obsessing about this is because it seems fishy, right? It seems weird. There's something odd about this. One of my friends was like, Operation Garden Plot. Someone is controlling Will's mind. All of y'all are wrong for saying Will asks himself, what would Tupac do? And then other people are saying it's fake. A couple of my friends are like, no, I don't believe it. It seems fake to me. Some are saying it was a setup, but Chris wasn't in on the setup. I mean, but there's a real possibility the brother just had a moment. Like, anyway, all of that said, you talk about the, over aggressive policing and such. Yeah, I get that that's assault, and assault is not okay. And I understand why comedians are very upset. And the comedians, to a man, woman, and child, are lining up behind Chris Rock going, no, because none of them want someone to just feel they can come up on stage and slap them. I mean, heck, I don't want anybody slapping me for something I said on the radio. And I'm sure, a lot of them would hit back, but that would be all bad too, right? But I don't agree with the whole respectability politics piece. What he set black people back. No, white supremacy set black people back. Racism, discrimination, redlining set people back. He who shall not be named, the 45th president, set people back. Black people back. I think this idea that we have to be perfect or live within some kind of little media wonderland in order to be, acceptable as black people, we're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to fall down and get up. We're allowed to be angry sometimes, and if we express it inappropriately, to recover from that without having our lives ruined or going to jail. We are allowed to have the same latitude as any other group of individuals, any other group of humans in the world. And that's part of what reimagining means. You know, that's part of what reimagining means. A white movie star, goes on a racist rant, flailing at police and gets a ride home. A black movie star, well, lucky for him, Chris Rock is a class act, and he didn't say yeah, because some people would have been like, yeah, arrest him now. And to me, that shows a really kind of strong character, right? Because it's easy to say, oh, I'm against the arrest and over incarceration of black people. And then on Monday and then on Tuesday, when somebody slaps you, going, lock that joker up, right? So when you can stay on your convictions, even when it's personally impacting you, to me, that's the ultimate test of character. You know, it's like when my bonus mom, my father's wife, Amiri Baraka, stood with him and saying, we will not seek the death penalty for the murder of my sister, not because we didn't feel like we wanted some answers or even revenge on a certain level. You try to be godly and not go there, but because that's a great example of standing true to what your principles are, even when it feels hard personally. If you're against the death penalty, you have to always be against the death penalty. So I give kudos to Chris Rock, acting like a grown-up, a principled grown-up. What about that? Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Give me a call, 800-920-1580. Want to touch on the madness at Tesla and where it's going, and the Pope's apology. Man, these apologies are rolling. Could it be reparations time? Got to talk about that too. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
And it does continue right now. So I said, is there reparations time? Because I feel like the reparations conversation and really progress as we see cities and states, so far California, but we're seeing a movement towards cities, counties, implementing some kind of reparations, at least a task force, at least a conversation, a study. And of course, California leading the way in states. The controversial decision this week by the California Task Force that reparations in this state would be offered only to people who are descendants of enslaved Africans or those who were here in the 19th century, free black people who were here in the 19th century but still suffered from the indignities and injustices of Jim Crow and all of the aftermath of our enslavement. Controversial because that's the ADO's position. It should only be black Americans. No immigrants or others should benefit from reparation. And one can make that argument based on a literal interpretation of reparation as a payment for people to help right the wrong of our enslavement, of 12 generations of black people who worked without pay in this country. But as we've broadened it out to also include the impact of Jim Crow, redlining, and other forms of attack on black people in this country, then that does include black people who might not have been enslaved or the descendants of enslavement, because all of those folks have experienced the impact of what Professor Jody Armour calls the black tax, right? The cost of being black in America. The sort of nationalist ADO's viewpoint won the day, and the vote was for reparations in California to be defined from a lineage viewpoint. I can see the argument for that. I don't hate it, but my problem with it has to do with, I think we might have become so nationalist and so rah-rah that we may have actually tricked ourselves out of getting real reparations, tricked ourselves out of it by being, by having a scarcity mentality, I guess, if you will. I understand the argument that a more narrow definition of who deserves reparation could be legally stronger, but I also understand that a scarcity mentality says, me, descendants of Black Americans, forget the other Black people. It's a divide strategy. It's one of the reasons why I say some of those folks are like right-wing tools, because at the end of the day, that becomes the outcome. So how do I prove that I'm the descendant of enslaved Africans? I don't have a birth certificate of my enslaved ancestors. I don't have pictures. Most of us don't have pictures. How are you going to prove it? And so I think that, and I hope I'm wrong, but it certainly creates an environment where we could end up with almost nobody being eligible for these reparations that we've fought so hard for. And speaking of that conversation, someone who's been on the front lines of the battle for reparations long before there was a task force in California, Molly Bell from the city of Compton. Good morning.
Reparations in memory of our ancestors. God bless morning, Dominique, KBLA listeners, family, and delegation. I missed you on yesterday, but I enjoyed Areva Martin, her guest, and a good conversation about the Oscars. Want to say one quick thing about the Oscar. I was disappointed in Will Smith and the slap and the words out of his mouth, but I was upset only because and that you always say start something good. We didn't talk about the Black producer, Will Packard, who did, this is other people, who did an all-Black production team, Black women hosting it, Regina Hall and Wanda Sykes. On the carpet was this man named Terrence J., a Black restaurant, I think it was called Ghetto something, Gastro, I think that's what it was, did the governor's ball menu, and Will Smith had portrayed, he won his Oscar for portraying King Richard, who never slapped any of those people who tried to keep Venus and Serena out of doing what they do. Remember, they used to talk about her beads are falling on the tennis court. And, of course, Beyonce. And she was great, and you saw the things from right in my neighborhood. That was the first time she had ever been nominated for an Oscar. And that slap, in which my only thing that I thought, and I'll talk another time about that, was fake, was because, Dominique, I don't know Black men to just slap men. Most of the Black men I knew knocked the mess out of them, ball up a fist, but that made me think I was suspect about that. But it's a lot that we are going to have to see. But just remember, that took the oxygen out of all the other great things. And if it was a setup, my only question is why. And I hope the truth will come out about that. Now I wonder, and thank you, Dominique, when you just said that you do not like the term that this set us back as a people. And then you went on to name a list. What really set us back as Black people? This is white supremacy, and you named that was excellent. And that should be the answer always when they say that a Black person or a Black incident set us back. Please don't get confused and get messed up. It was not that. It was all the things that you just named a few minutes ago. Quickly on reparation, for those who don't know, we say, and Dominique has been to a lot of the meetings with Mr. Peoples, used to have myself and and Steve Taylor and Mary Randall and others on her show all the time. Reparation is repair. What is repair? Whatever it takes to make us whole. How do you know we're not whole? Because Article 1, Section 2 of the United States Constitution says Black peoples are 3/5 of a person. That's a fraction. Anybody who knows math. Who should get reparation? Dobas, descendants of Black African slaves. And that includes so many people. I'm going to have to stand with what's going on. I don't like it by lineage because President Barack Obama would not get reparation simply because his father was Kenyan, and he came here on his own by choice. So if he did, then why should he get reparation? And they keep saying that by lineage we wouldn't get as much money. But Dominique, the group, and you know, we have a list of things. We say it could be economic assistance, it could be tax relief, it could be education. If we had to break it up, because I think this is going to break up our family, our unity, as we argue about who can. Because when they kill us, when they lynch us, they never ask us, "Oh, were you by lineage an enslaved African?" We don't get this. We don't get to answer that. And what if white folks, Dominique, say, "I wasn't here when you were enslaved"?
Mm-hmm.
Should we pay? Mm-hmm. They could do that. Well, anyway, I just want to hear those things, and you keep on doing a good job. I'm excited about your conversation with Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Can't wait, so I'm going to go get me a cup of coffee. I know you would have me to get some green tea, but I'm going to get me a cup of coffee, and I'm going to get ready to listen. Listen, all you prayer warriors out there, you know what you've got to do. You've got to keep fasting. You've got to keep praying, because the struggle continues. But always, to God be the glory. Thank you, Dominique.
Thank you, Molly Bell. I'm laughing because I'm over here drinking some mint tea. Yep, that's what we do. But do you, and I appreciate your insight. I know you've put in the work on reparations. And as Dr. David Horn said, he's also a reparations activist. This is not over until it's over. This is where we are right now. My hope and prayer is that as many Black people as possible are positively impacted by the outcomes of reparations, as Molly Bell said, whether it be we don't pay taxes for, I don't know, say 12 generations. That's how many of us work for free. Or we get college paid for. But when I say that, it means not just free tuition. It means books and housing, because the only way you get a level playing field is you have to have the same perks that the majority students have, right? There's lots of things. It could be lots and lots of things. A check is good. I hate when people say, "Oh, well, don't give Black people a check because they're just going to waste the money. They're going to waste it on cars and clothes." So what? If it's my money, I can waste it if I want to. To me, that argument has always been like, say you owe me $100 and you say, "I'm not going to give it back to you because you're going to waste it on makeup, Dominique. You're going to waste it on Postmates." Well, guess what? If it's my money, that's none of your business. Give me my 100. And if I decide to waste it, that's on me. If I decide to save it, that's on me. To me, that's the reparation concept. What am I, Wendy Williams? What are you, Wells Fargo? You don't get to decide what I do with my money and when I get to spend it. If it is owed to our community, which it is, 12 generations, not 12 years, 12 generations of our ancestors worked without pay. And you wonder why there's a wealth gap. Ron from L.A. Hola, what's up?
Good morning, Dominique. Good morning, Dominique. God bless you.
Same.
I'm just want to say I'm glad you let me come on. God bless Molly Bell. I really enjoyed what she was saying. Something I got to tell you, I've been praying that Will Smith and Chris Rock really get together. I hate to see these two brothers go down like this, but I hope something be resolved of this. I'm not going to say nothing more about that. What I want to talk about is the latest thing that's happening on Capitol Hill about Clarence Thomas' wife.
Woohoo!
Bob Woodward. You remember Bob Woodward, the great reporter that brought down Richard Nixon?
He just had a book out like last week or something. Yeah.
Well, Miss Dominique, he's tagging along following Clarence Thomas' wife, and come to find out, he has got evidence that she supported the overthrow of our government and that election. She's supporting the Trumpsters. And what we should do now is start contacting our congressmen and senators, especially our senators, and tell them that we want Clarence Thomas to resign, not to excuse himself, but to resign, or have his wife go to federal prison for 10 years for trying to overthrow the government.
Or maybe both. Or maybe both.
Maybe both. That's a good one.
You know what, Ron? It's not just Bob Woodward that has that evidence now. It's the 1-6 committee because of those text messages that they got, which Clarence Thomas voted against the disclosure of, and now we see why he was the only vote to keep those papers and documents secret. He was, among other things, protecting his wife, who is now revealed to be a QAnon conspiracy theorist, believer, a supporter of the overthrow of our election and of our government, and just an out-of-control right-wing nut. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has already called for him to step down. Nancy Pelosi didn't call for him to step down, but she said it's time to get some ethics rules for the Supreme Court. They don't have them. And that the Clarence Thomas situation makes it clear that we need to do that. Ron?
And Miss Dominique, I like that, but he needs to be pressured to step down, period. He needs to resign.
Yeah.
And do you know, it would be a blessing in disguise to have Miss Jackson to go up, and then President Biden appoint someone else after Clarence Thomas stepped down. That would be beautiful.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. I think it's an unlikely scenario, but I think you're right. It would be great. The thing about it is Republicans know that if he steps down, Biden is going to replace him, and we'll get closer to having to being where we should be with the court after they stole 2 seats. Republicans stole 2 seats. So I think, that would be an over my dead body scenario. But I really do. And it's not easy to impeach a Supreme Court justice. So, I'm with you. I just don't know if I see that happening.
Well, I'm going to pray on it.
Well, prayer works. So, hey, I'll join you in that prayer.
And as far as the reparations are concerned, I could prove that my descendants were slaves. I lucked out. One of my ancestors happened to be in our history book in Georgia, called The Coastal History of Georgia, and she lived to be over 100 years old, and she said we were a Senegalese African.
Wow, so you got it from your ancestors' mouth that you were from Senegal? Oh, be proud, because Senegal is beautiful, and it's full of very smart, resourceful, good-looking people. That's what I found out when I went there. Your ancestors are all that, Ron.
Hey, God bless you, Miss Dominique. Thank you again.
Thank you. News and traffic, then more. The conversation is KBLA Talk 1580. We are your ancestors' favorite radio station.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Be heard. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, so Pope Francis made an apology to the Indigenous people of Canada. It's a great thing. I think these apologies and the conversations that go with them help us become aware of real history, which is extra important when we have people that are hell-bent on suppressing history. He said that the Indigenous people had suffered deplorable abuses under Canada's church-run residential schools. Remember those graveyards that were found last year with hundreds of the bodies of Indigenous children. He said that he hoped to visit Canada over the summer, that he would deliver the apology in person to the survivors of the Roman Catholic Church's missionary abuses, and he begged forgiveness to the members of that audience, which included several First Nations ethnic groups. So that's a good thing. These things raise awareness. Now, does it fix it? No, but it's a step in the right direction. Tracking what's going on with Tesla, because the Attorney General of the state of California is suing them for racial segregation. And if you listen, if you look, if you go under the hood, so to speak, of these allegations, it's pretty horrendous. segregation within the factories, the targeting of black employees. They did not get promoted. They were abused. And this is a culture. If you are the head of that institution, that company, even if you aren't not aware of it, or maybe you're not doing it yourself, I don't know. The fact of the matter is that culture is top down, and it is your responsibility. And it is systemic at that point. To me, it points to the discrimination that a lot of us have faced in our workplaces, right? Where you're last hired, first fired, where you're training people that go on to become your supervisors, where you are dealing with microaggressions and plain old aggressions day in, day out. And so how do we, as Black Americans, as women, as not just Black Americans, global Black people, women, Latinos, BIPOC people, how do we create a safe work environment? Not only safe, but equitable, right? Where I get the same opportunity as you do. Where I get the same perks, the same advancements, and the same benefit of the doubtness, if that's a thing. It is a thing. We see it again and again. It's part of what we were talking about in this whole Oscars controversy. I'm going to keep tracking this, and I hope you will too, because I feel like so many people in the hood are driving Teslas now. This is, I don't know, is this just an LA thing? Call me if it's happening in your state, in your city, county. All of a sudden, everybody got a Tesla. But if we were being segregated to the N-word section of the factories, given the worst jobs, being disparaged, not given the opportunity to advance, and then getting fired for speaking out, is that what we want to be representing? Don't know. I don't think so. Happy to see Amazon workers getting a second shot at it in Alabama. They say the vote was too close to call with contested ballots. But the thing about that is when you think about the things that Amazon did last time to undermine a union vote, to invalidate ballots and stuff, clearly they're going to do it again the second time around now. They say that the vote was too close to call, and the National Labor Relations Board is going to hold a hearing on the contested ballot, so we don't know which way that is ultimately going to go. But it looks like Amazon workers in New York are going to unionize. Well, we won't know till later this morning. The votes are being counted. This is Staten Island. And, well, there's one in Staten Island, and there's another vote, and I guess another factory over there, another, not factory, but facility over there that will be voting on their labor union later this month. So a lot of movement, and that's why I was so honored and so happy to be with the LA Federation of Labor on yesterday. The words of Angela Davis, Dr. Angela Davis, truly inspiring. She was saying how this time in our history, with the activism and the progress and all of the things that we're seeing, is the most exciting time out of the many chapters of progress that she has lived through and been a part of. And to me, that is very inspiring, because sometimes we just focus on the setbacks, and a lot of times we romanticize and glorify the 60s and 70s, and yes, a lot of good things happened then, but she was pointing out that we're in a time of potential, and I think it's so important to remember that and to focus on the progress and the activism and the changes that we are seeing. Among them, she pointed out the at least acknowledgement of this idea that there is such a thing as systemic racism, systemic inequality. Let's go to Kevin calling us from LA, I believe. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Dominique. A long time no hear from. How you doing?
I'm blessed. How are you? Welcome back.
I'm blessed. Yeah. No, I just had a kind of a busy few months of work schedule, but I just heard you this morning and heard Molly Bell, and I wanted to chime in on the ever so popular, I guess it's not going to die anytime soon, Will Smith saga. Believe it or not, I've never seen one particular incident, I think, in my current life that I've just wrestled so much with,
Interesting.
everything that happened. Yeah, I thought I would have, it would have passed, but it's like I had a nightmare about it one time. It was crazy, it was just I couldn't believe something like this has happened, but I'll just kind of unpack it as I see it, just with Will Smith and Chris Rock. I mean, the temerity, the unmitigated colossal gall of Will Smith, and I'm just remembering back with his coworker, who they now have made up, but before they were, big kind of personality clashes with the old and Viv.
Yes.
Of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and how, her and Will Smith had a long, difference of a lot of different things, so much so that she got fired. But she had said
Janet
back then,
Hubert, that's her name, Janet Hubert, yeah.
Yeah, Janet Hubert. Yeah, she had said that, they had clashes on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, so much so that, he demanded that she got fired, and also he got into a lot of, personality clashes with the people on set, like throwing tantrums and all this stuff. And these are things that we couldn't believe because, he has such almost a perfect image, Will Smith, does.
Yeah.
Not saying that, he doesn't have entitled to his own, we all have our own, skeletons or, our own, times when we just aren't at our best,
Yeah.
But I guess for that to happen at the Oscars, and when you see how much, Black people have went through the Oscars, that's what I was thinking about. From Hattie McDaniels to, the white folks having to write her speech and daring her to come out of her speech if she did something different, they would take the Oscar from her, to people like Diana Ross, who should have won for Lady Sings the Blues, but Liza Minnelli got it because Judy Garland died the year before, or something like that. To all of the, different, people that never got it, you know what I mean, who deserved it. Diane Carroll, all the Cicely Tyson, all the great Black luminaries.
Denzel from Malcolm X. Still mad about that.
And the list goes on and on and on. But to see, the industry, roll out the red carpet for King Richard, which he did an amazing job for, and as well as Denzel did a great job with the tragedy of Macbeth. But this was.
Oh, don't say that! Don't say that, Kevin. You can't say the name of the Scottish play. Hey, I wanna continue this conversation because you have got some great points and some things that bear unpacking. But there are the thespian community. The actors feel like Mr. Rock got slapped because he said the name of the Scottish play, and that's supposed to be a curse, or you're not supposed to say the name of that play that Denzel starred in, and he said it on stage. Moments later, he was slapped. Conspiracy theories abound. I want to continue this, Kevin, though, because you have some interesting thoughts. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
We're talking with Kevin. He brought up the conversation about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. And honestly, you're not the only one. I think this conversation has had a lot more legs than anyone thought, not just because more and more things keep coming out. I think it's a feeling people have. There's a ton of different issues that are brought up by this. Is it the man's role to, air quotes, protect his wife or his partner in that situation? A lot of people had sympathy or empathy for Will Smith because of that. Is he getting multiple passes because he's a Hollywood star and he's wealthy? When do we get to use violence? When do we get to assault people, and when do we not? Shouldn't we all be able to take a joke? What are the mental health implications here? How long has Will Smith been bubbling under? You mentioned, Kevin, that he has a perfect image, and you got to think that that kind of a perfect image comes at a high price. So what is the stress and the underlying tension of being so-called perfect? And then, the questions you brought up about his track record, the questions with Janet Hubert, his questionable, I guess, presence in the media with his wife and people being tired of hearing all their business. I don't think it's fair that people are blaming him and saying he should have slapped August Alsina instead of Chris Rock, because that's their relationship and it has their rules and they get to decide how they want to run that. But all of these things, there's just so many things that come up. Racism. How does a black man represent on the world stage? I mean, on and on it goes in this one small incident. So it's not just a gossip incident that's really trivial. It's almost like a fable, right? Where all of these questions come forth. And you were laying out some of them. I'm going to hand the mic back to you, Kevin, and let you keep on.
No, thank you, Dominic. And you brought up excellent points too. This is like a spider with, so many different legs. Like you said, the story has so many legs. And who would have thought, like somebody like Will Smith, we all, grew up with, of a certain age with, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, so it's not like he's a bad figure or somebody like that. Like I said, he's a lovable, fun-loving, and even from a rap perspective, I mean, he's not like Tupac or somebody like hardcore. He's a fun-loving, positive rapper.
Hey, we love Pac. We love Pac, but yeah.
Of course we love Pac, but I'm just, using the contrast.
Right,
so it's not like, you know what I mean? So he's not a violent rapper. You see what I'm saying? So, but yet he uses violence in this moment, and it seems like, to a certain extent, he's trying to show the world that he's hardcore, but used the totally wrong, inappropriate stage to showcase his hardcore, badness. You know what I mean? And it's just like beyond shocking. And what's also just interesting is Jada Pinkett Smith, because it's a trip. As soon as Chris Rock told the joke, he was laughing. Will Smith was laughing, as we all were laughing, but she was very upset with the joke. And then when he turned and looked at her, then it was like, oh, I got to go into protecting my rights mode. And then there was alluding to his book where his father had actually hit his mother when he was younger, but he wasn't able to stop it. So he said as an adult, he feels that he has to protect people. And you see that in his speech. And how he blames God in his speech. Well, God has given me the responsibility to protect people in my life.
Yeah, some people said it was a bunch of excuses. But, really, really interesting. Yeah. Is he trying to revamp his image and be tougher? I don't know. We don't know why he was laughing. He could have been mad under that laugh, too. Being perfect teaches you to cover things up. We'll continue the conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. Less BS per broadcast. Fewer microaggressions per megawatt. KBLA Talk 1580.
All right, Kevin, we want to squeeze Ron in here too. So just give me your final thought.
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. Well, basically, I was shocked at Will Smith, but I was also shocked at Jada Pinkett Smith in that she didn't even try to stop her husband. Most couples have a thing where they talk between their teeth, or your mom would, if you don't, she didn't do any of that. It's like she edged it on, which I understand she's suffering from alopecia, and I definitely understand that part, and I understand the part about a black man defending a black woman. But for her to not allow her husband to act so that it'll make them both look bad. She didn't even try to stop it.
Yeah.
And I'm really shocked about that.
Thank you for the call, Kevin. Hope you'll call again. Maybe she didn't know what he was fixing to do. I mean, that's possible. Hi, Ron. Ron?
Well, it's Ronnie from Orange County.
Hi,
yes,
Ronnie.
It's Ronnie from Orange
from
County.
OC.
Thank you. Appreciate that. My mother would be highly upset. I named you Ronnie, but
Okay.
getting to the point because of time. Thank you. I would like to give a big shout-out to Congresswoman Maxine Waters. I stood in a group of 300 to maybe 400 people on Thursday and Friday This was for emergency housing, and the facility that was providing this off of Vermont and Imperial was highly dysfunctional. And luckily, Representative Maxine Waters showed up. She said she was driving by, and she helped to organize the 300 to 400 people that were there. By the way, speaking of that 300 to 400, I'd like to give a shout out to those men and women that stood there while the dysfunction of that organization kept giving mixed messages for this emergency housing. And I'd like to give a big shout out to LAPD, Sergeant and Corporal, the only two officers on scene who worked with the representative and had a calm hand with that large group.
All right, Ronnie. Thank you for sharing your experience. We'll be talking with Congresswoman Maxine Waters. It's a one-on-one. It's in depth. And that's next. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.